Well, over the next two episodes, I want to spend some time looking at the heart journey and giving us fresh vision for doing the heart journey, and also give us some practical tools about what does the heart journey actually look like in practice. How do we do it? And doing the heart journey is something I'm really passionate about. It's something I talk about often when I'm doing ministry. I've experienced firsthand the huge benefit in my own life of increasingly knowing freedom and healing in my heart and the impact that's had. And I've also seen the impact on many, many other people who've said yes to Jesus, going beneath the surface of their hearts and putting his finger on stuff and bringing healing and freedom. And it's such an important journey for us to go on in order to stay healthy and build on healthy foundations. And so I want us to just have a look at the Bible together and look at what Jesus thinks about the heart journey and give us some fresh vision about saying yes to what can be a difficult and painful journey, but one that bears incredible fruit. So let's look at the Bible together. We're going to look at Proverbs 4:23 to start with. And it says this: above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This is such a significant instruction. When it talks about guarding your heart, a good way to describe it is to watch over your heart. I think sometimes if we think about guarding, we think about locking it down, protecting, keeping it hidden. But perhaps a better way of understanding it is watch over your heart. It's such a significant instruction. And the reason that we're encouraged to guard and watch over our hearts is that everything we do flows from our hearts. Everything we do flows from what's inside us. The things we say, the things we think, the ways we behave, our reactions to things, the way we love our spouses or our friends, the way we forgive others, the way we bring the kingdom, all of it is an overflow of what is going on inside us in our hearts. And the truth is, God wants us to be increasingly whole and free and healthy on the inside. He wants to heal our hearts. He wants to comfort us and convict us. He wants to reveal where our thinking is wrong and show us what's true. He wants to teach us how to lament in a healthy way and put his finger on deep pain and trauma we might be carrying. He wants to help us step into greater joy. Saying yes to the heart journey isn't always easy, but the fruit when we do and the breakthrough we get to experience is so worth the journey. There's various different fruits that we'll experience if we say yes to this. First of all, we'll experience fruit in our relationship with God. We'll get to know God more fully and more intimately as we connect with him in deeper ways. You know, when you come to Jesus with your pain and you let him comfort you and you let him bind up your broken heart, you get to know him in a deeper way. When he gently reveals shame that we're carrying or encourages us to confess our sin to him, and we get to experience his forgiveness and his acceptance, we get to encounter his nature, his character in a deeper way. We get to know his heart. And so doing this heart journey, first and foremost, builds intimacy for us with God. We get to know him more intimately and in deeper ways. The second fruit we get to see is in our relationship with ourselves. When you go on the heart journey, you get to learn and to understand more about who you are at your core, who you really are. We get to understand the deep wounds that have impacted the way we live and how we've got those wounds. We'll also get to know who God intended us to be without the limitations. And as we heal more and get more and more free, we're able to more fully step into the fullness of who God's called us to be and the influence he's called us to have. And this is just the most precious fruit as you go on this journey, that you get to know more about who you are and fully step into your calling and your purpose. And we also get to enjoy fruit when it comes to loving other people and our relationship with others. When you go on the heart journey, you grow in love and compassion for other people. The more wholehearted you become, the more you're able to wholeheartedly love others. You have empathy in a different way because you've done your own journey. And so when you see other people walking through stuff, you have empathy for them and you have tools to be able to help them go on their own heart journey. The way that we love people, when you go on the heart journey, it just flows out of a different place. And we get to see them through God's eyes and show them more of his grace and compassion, the more healed we are. So there's precious fruit as you go on this journey. And so I hope that gives you vision for pursuing it, even though it's not always easy. But I just want to look at a couple more passages in the Gospel of Luke. And they're right at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount really is a lot about the heart journey. Jesus talks a lot about the internal stuff, the secret stuff. And at the end of that sermon, he shares two more pieces of teaching. And I just want us to look at those for a minute and pull out some truths about the heart journey. And maybe before I share my thoughts, you might want to pause this episode and read them yourselves and work out what you think and how God speaks to you before you listen to me. But we're going to start in Luke chapter 6, and we're going to look at verses 43 to 45. And it's the passage that's entitled The Tree and Its Fruit. So it says this: a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. A tree is identified by its fruit. Figs are never gathered from thorn bushes, and grapes are not picked from bramble bushes. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say flows from what is in your heart. So let me just pull out a few thoughts for us from this passage. First thing that Jesus talks about is the fact that a tree is identified by its fruit. The fruit a tree produces shows the substance of the tree. It shows the core of the tree, what's going on inside the tree. So a tree produces fruit out of the overflow of what's inside it. And then Jesus goes on to talk about the fruit that we produce and the fact that it flows from our hearts. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. An evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. The fruit we produce is an overflow of what's going on inside of us. It's specifically an overflow of our hearts. The great news for us is that when we give our lives to Jesus, he gives us a new heart. He gives us a heart of flesh that is longing to please him and obey him, that helps us to feel deeply. So that's amazing news, but the reality is that even this new heart we've been given can get wounded and hard and need healing and freedom. Jesus finishes by saying that what we say flows from what's in our hearts. In other translations, it says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so, as an aside, this hopefully will help you. One of the ways we can identify what's really going on in our hearts is to pay attention to what comes out of our mouths, or even to pay attention to some of the things we think that we may not say. This is a really great way of working out what you're really feeling and thinking and what's really going on inside you. I had a conversation with a friend not so long ago, and he was asking me my thoughts on various different things, asking for some feedback. And I was feeling very confident and sure of what I was thinking. And so I told him very honestly, these are my thoughts, and this is why I think this, and had you thought about this? And anyway, we had this honest conversation. What was interesting for me is when I went back to my house, I noticed this narrative start to build in my mind, which started to bring some insecurity to my heart about the conversation we just had. And I started to think, oh my goodness, I think I've overstepped the mark. Who am I to have said those things? Classic imposter syndrome. I shouldn't have said that. It's not my place. I should have kept quiet. I probably offended him. And so I went down this spiral of negative thinking. Now, in that moment, what was going on was that actually something was being revealed to me about what was going on in my heart. It was revealing an area of unhealth in my heart. And I could have just ignored it. I could have just got busy doing other things or tried to not think about it. But what I've learned in these moments is to try and lean in. Try and notice there's something going on here that is revealing to me, because of my thoughts, what I'm actually believing and what's going on inside me. And so what I did was I noticed what was happening, and then I made a choice to be vulnerable. And I decided to text my friend, and I said to him, look, thanks for the conversation. I've just realised as I've got home, my brain's been spiralling. I've been thinking this, and this. Was what I said okay? So I'm being vulnerable, first of all, to identify, is any of this thinking right, or is it all just a bit out there and unhealed? And he was very, very kind, very quickly messaged me back and said, no, it was a really good conversation. It was really helpful to hear your thoughts. This is what friends do. It was robust, and I really appreciated it. And so that first step of being vulnerable actually brought some peace to my heart, because I thought, actually, it was fine. So this is really revealing something in my heart that maybe Jesus wants to heal. And then I took some time to ask Jesus, where has this thinking come from? Where is this mindset coming from that I can't say things confidently because that's not okay, and I should know my place and I shouldn't overstep the mark? And Jesus started to speak to me about some things that I'd experienced in my life through my upbringing, but also through different experiences with people in authority. And then I was able to just look at those things a little bit more and process them and express some of my feelings about it and forgive different people. And I'm still on a journey of learning that my voice is important and it's okay to have confident and strong opinions. But that was just one example of Jesus taking healing deeper. And it came about because I paid attention to some of the thoughts that I started to have in this particular situation. So that hopefully is a helpful tool for you. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, or the mind thinks. Use your awareness of your behavior, the stuff you say, the stuff you think, to notice where there's healing that needs to come, and then submit to Jesus and go on this heart journey and let him bring healing and freedom to you. So let's read on. The next passage we're going to read is Luke chapter 6, 46 to 49. And this is a familiar passage, building on a solid foundation. And it says this, Jesus says this, "So why do you keep calling me Lord, Lord, when you don't do what I say? I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me, listens to my teaching, and then follows it. It is like a person building a house who digs deep and lays the foundation on solid rock. When the floodwaters rise and break against the house, it stands firm because it is well built. But anyone who hears and doesn't obey is like a person who builds a house right on the ground without a foundation. When the floods sweep down against the house, it will collapse into a heap of ruins." Again, a few things that I just want to pick out of this scripture when it comes to the heart journey. First thing is this: living lives of obedience to Jesus is key if we want to build our lives on a solid foundation and be able to stand firm when challenges come. So living lives of obedience, listening to what God says, looking at his word and following through with what he is asking of us is key if we want to build on a solid foundation. Second thing we can learn from this passage is that floodwaters are going to come. They are inevitable. We are going to face challenges in life. And doing the heart journey will mean that we and what we build with Jesus will be healthy and be able to stand firm over the long haul, even as we face challenges and suffering and storms and floods. The section that particularly stood out to me is where Jesus says, "They dig deep and lay the foundation on solid rock." The wise builder digs deep and lays the foundation on solid rock. It's interesting to me that in both of these passages, the emphasis is on what happens underground. A tree is produced by a seed, and for that seed to grow, it has to first be planted underground, and in order to bear fruit. When it comes to a house that he's talking about here, the first thing that happens is that the foundations have to be dug underground for this to be healthy. Both of these processes start in the secret place, in hiddenness, underground. And I would imagine, I've not built a house, but I would imagine that building a house, digging the foundations, I wouldn't expect is the fun part of the process. It's hidden and hard work. I would imagine that the fun part of building a house is seeing the walls go up and the windows going and the shape of the rooms and the electrics being wired and the plastering being finished, and then being able to decorate this house how you want it to be. Digging the foundations is not fun or glamorous, but it's crucial if the house is going to stay firm and stand and be strong over the long haul. And when you liken this to the heart journey, there's brilliant similarities to this process. The heart journey is not often the fun part of our journeys. It can be really hard work. It's the deep stuff that often happens in secret that no one else apart from God and maybe a couple of trusted friends know about. It's things like working through forgiveness, confessing and repenting, expressing disappointment and lamenting, facing and expressing pain and trauma, serving without recognition, celebrating other people's success and breakthrough, giving away money, wrestling with fear and anxiety. The heart journey happens in the secret place, in the hidden place, but it's so crucial to go on this journey if we want to build strong foundations. That means that we can stay standing firm when storms hit. So easy in our walk with Jesus to focus on the exciting bits and to avoid really looking at our hearts. Things like adventures we get to go on, or opportunities we have to step into our calling and gifting, or people seeing the potential in us and calling it out, or seeing miracles, or prophesying, or seeing God move, or leading people to Jesus. All these things that are so exciting, and we all want to see more of these things, and there is so much more for us to see. The danger is we focus on these things and we neglect our heart journey. And the truth is, if we want to follow Jesus wholeheartedly, if we want to fall more and more in love with him, if we want to step into greater freedom and healing, and stand firm and love him passionately over the long haul, we've got to let him do stuff that's deep in our hearts. We've got to let him go beneath the surface and bring healing and freedom to us. And the journey can be hard and painful and disorientating. And actually, some of us are carrying very deep wounds from our past. And part of our journey is to let God dig up some of the wrong foundations that we've been living with. There's a building by a river that I sometimes walk past that I saw was in the process of being demolished. And I walked past it one day and it was starting to be demolished. The next day, it was completely flattened. So knocking this building down was very, very quick, flattened very quickly. But the next part of the process was the diggers coming in to dig up the old foundations so that they could prepare for the new foundations. And that took so much longer, significantly longer, to dig down, to get out the old rubble, to break up the ground. It's hard graft and it takes time. And it's not fun. And for some of us, God needs to come in and go to the deep places and dig up wrong foundations that are really tightly packed in us because we've lived with them for many years. And he needs to come and dig those foundations up so that he can pour in healthier foundations. And this feels like a lot of what God's been doing in me over the last 18 months or so as I've been doing some counselling. It's like he's been going to the deepest places. He's been putting his finger on coping mechanisms and ways of behaving that I've learnt from such a young age that actually weren't serving me, weren't healthy, weren't whole. And it's been very disorientating and very challenging. But he's been reminding me on the journey that actually he's been saying to me, Wendy, the most precious things come out of the deepest places. When I've got to those points of like, God, I don't think I can do any more. Really, is there any more depth for you to go to? He said to me, Wendy, the most precious things come out of the deepest places. If you want to access the precious things, if you think about it, diamonds, water, oil, if you want to access those things, you've got to go to the deep places. And actually, I want to testify that it has been so worth the journey. This side of the 18 months, I feel in a very different place. I feel much more myself. I feel freer. I feel more in love with Jesus. It is so worth going on this journey. And I just think even more and more, it's so important. It's important for all of us to go on this journey, but more and more in this season, in this time in history where we're experiencing and hearing about so many different Christian leaders who have neglected their heart journeys, and as a result have caused lots of damage to the church, to different individuals that they were entrusted to serve and to love and care for. There's been so much abuse and so much damage, and it's so easy just to get your quick fix from being on the platform and people thinking you're amazing, and neglect the hard work of the heart journey, of the secret place of letting God go deep. We've got to do that journey so that we can stay healthy and serve people well and love them well for the long haul. It's so important. So let me ask you, how's your heart journey going? Are you prioritising moments just to be with God and invite him to search you and to know you? Saying yes to the heart journey is so important. We must build our lives on healthy foundations. One of the main ways we can do that is prioritising the heart journey. And in the next episode, I want to give us practical tools about how do we actually go on this journey. It's all very well you giving me vision for this, and hopefully I have, but how do we actually do this in practice, day to day? How do we say yes to this and let Jesus go to the deep places in our heart so that we can step into greater healing and freedom? So we'll look at that in the next episode. But for now, I just want to encourage you, say yes to the heart journey and trust Jesus to lead you into greater healing and freedom.